Well, how about that? We are right on time, 6 minutes after the hour. If you're watching us or listening to us live, welcome to Facebook Live. Welcome to Biz Talk Radio. We are back. It is John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox, Brian Main, Tiger's grinning. Oh, we got a little feedback going? Barely, but we couldn't hear. I could barely hear that.
It was manageable, and he did it all on his own.
Anyway, that was John's phone. Look at John. He's giddy. Let's go to John. Let's toss to John. We want to enjoy your giddiness with you.
I can turn it louder if you want. You should be giddy. Spring's here.
Yeah.
Fall spring.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful day yesterday.
False spring, is that what you said?
False spring.
Yeah, fall spring. 47 degrees on the way in this morning. Clear, crystal clear. Not a cloud in the sky.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like I was in a cloud this morning.
Yeah.
Well, that's just you walking around normally. That's your reality.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the difference between inland and coast.
Exactly.
We're on the north side of the 15.
Makes all the difference.
It
that
does
freeway.
make a difference, yeah.
It's a big freeway.
And it's funny how, inland usually sunny, the coast, the beaches, cloudy all day.
They've got night and morning low clouds.
Otherwise, mostly sunny, yeah.
You know what was always something really interesting, though, was growing up in Lakeside, which is East County, San Diego, probably as you drive maybe 30 minutes to the beach, okay, it would be 95 and sunny. 8 o'clock in the morning out there and be like, we're going to go to the beach today because it is hot here. We're going to get to the beach. And when you arrive at the beach,
cold,
it's
windy.
68 and cloudy and windy.
Yep.
And it was not nice at the beach.
And maybe it would barely clear up, a little bit of sun.
Yeah.
But, and then when it is sunny all day at the beach, it's wonderful. Now, Lakeside, very interesting because I grew up in Pacific Beach, so we're opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I kind of picture Lakeside. I don't know, maybe a couple of goats running around the backyard.
Couple of goats.
A little more, not farmy, but
it's very farmy.
Farmy. Okay.
I mean, for San Diego County, I mean, people talk about Fallbrook in the North County area, inlands area, being the largest collection of small farms, in the state, if not in the country, but. It's plant farms up there in that area, where Lakeside, I feel, has more animal farms. There's actually a dairy out there. People do have horses. People do have goats and chickens and all that other stuff. Obviously it's grown a little bit now, but definitely very farmy. Definitely.
And you forgot the meth labs also.
That was, hey, when you're out there in the hills, you need to make some money.
Do you know what the number one industry in San Diego County is?
Is agriculture, isn't it?
Well, in a way, it's nursery products.
Ornamental agriculture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that, huh?
Isn't that surprising?
Yeah, I'm a little taken
It
aback.
is to me. You would think it would be some crop, but avocados or something. But
I mean, it probably was at one point in time. But, I'm wondering if that's changing because, the big reason why that fact was true was because, number one, Eki used to be here, which was the largest producer of poinsettias in the world for a lot of time. They pretty much owned Encinitas, the whole area. Everywhere you go, you saw a greenhouse.
Farms, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then, number two, Altman Plants is here, and they're Fallbrook, Vista.
North County.
Probably the largest grower in the country, right?
I would say that they're probably the largest grower in the country now. Yeah. So Altman's being here. And then number three was, and Altman's owns them now, was Plug Connection or was Proven Winners bigger than, who was bigger, Plug Connection or Proven Winners?
Well, Proven, are you talking about Proven?
Euro America, sorry.
I think Euro American might have been at one time.
Uh-huh.
But overall, it was Plug Connection.
Yeah. So then having those all, but they're all owned by Altman's now.
Yeah,
so we used to have three of the biggest growers in the country, and now they're all under one.
Now
umbrella.
they're all one.
Yeah. Which is amazing. And then you go into our companies like Party Trees, Verde, which all do large specimen, where they have huge acres of 15-gallon, 24-inch
Speaking
boxes.
of swallowing up other businesses, how's your little acquisition coming along?
It's coming along. It's coming along. You know, it's moving forward. No huge bumps. Knock on wood.
I mean, do you have to go in there and like, no, get rid of waste, or maybe get rid of this person, or
cutting waste.
Oh yeah.
Or we don't
It's really
need this,
popular nowadays.
Or why are we doing this?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, anytime there's a business acquisition, right? You got to, you know, go through and see what you're heavy on and what you need to kind of slim down.
This is a terrible pun. Should I use it? You're weeding things?
Weeding out things.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And now that's North County, like John's area?
Yeah.
Fallbrook?
Yeah, Fallbrook area, North County area. But, you know, yeah, hopefully within a few months things will be fully settled down and, you know, kind of moving forward.
You didn't change the name, right?
We did.
You did.
So it's all under the Eco Gardeners.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was a subsidiary of your major Okay.
No, it's just going to be Eco Gardeners.
Yes,
yeah.
John.
I'm just wondering, you know, I love all our listeners, right? We really appreciate them. Otherwise, we'd just be sitting here talking to ourselves.
However,
they all have their own sense of humor.
which is great. We like that.
Right. And anyway, Veronica in Spring Valley says she loved the newsletter. She said, I'm so glad to subscribe to it. It's worth every penny. So I'm not sure. Does she really like the newsletter and think it's
very valuable information?
Yeah,
or the fact that it costs $0?
You know what?
It doesn't cost me anything.
We don't want to know the answer to that. Let us
so
just
it's
think
worth
about that.
nothing.
Yeah.
But it's true. It is true. You know, I went onto the website this morning briefly, and right there, sign up for the newsletter. It's on the main page. I didn't even have to look for it. It jumped out at me.
I love
Top right-hand corner, I believe.
I love seeing John's motivation too sometimes. And every once in a while he'll go through these spurts of motivation, you know, and he got onto this new program that allows him to create images.
Oh, I know.
And I've seen this whole new like motivation to create articles and articles that associate.
I only put one
this week.
One picture this week that was AI created.
I like seeing, you know, how excited you get for them, and then because I mean, number one,
you
the
just
articles,
like that you don't have to do the newsletter.
I do love that, but I really do like the articles because they're interesting and they're fun, and you find out something new, and you know, I feel like you've gotten this spurt of energy again to create new ones.
He's like I am. You find something you like a new toy, and you want to use it.
Yeah.
Now this one had, what did you have around it in this newsletter?
I have it right here.
You had some graphics all the way around.
Oh, around the border of the newsletter?
Yes, exactly.
Where did it go?
Oops. You know, I have to. I've kept the background the same for a few weeks, so this week I changed it up.
Yeah, I noticed it right away.
But normally when I change it, I'm thinking about you.
What's he going to think about? Is he going to notice it?
Yeah, well, because you do notice it.
Uh-huh.
You pick up on everything.
Little details.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't see the background in this one.
Yeah, it depends how big your screen is.
Yeah, you usually can't see it on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Bummer.
Carla, speaking of the newsletter while we're on it,
sure.
Carla wanted to know if I wrote an article on new veggie varieties, and she wanted to know if they're available as plants or seeds only. Most of those probably only seed, but there might be a few that if you go to your local garden center, you'll find, you know, maybe in her area, Green Thumb, some of the independents. I would doubt if the box stores would carry them, but possibly.
Yeah, usually they don't go into mass production until a little bit later, but yeah, the independents will get things a little earlier.
So we have just about a minute or so. We've got to tease our guest. Well, not physically tease our guest, but tease our listeners and viewers who the guest is going to be. Then we have the quote of the week. Let's talk about let's do the quote first.
Yeah.
John, quote of the week. Go ahead.
You know, I can't remember if this is a new quote or I know I've used it before.
Okay,
but it was from our good buddy Rachel Carson.
Well, if it's apropos, it doesn't matter, does it?
Has nothing to do with apropos, Brian. It says, those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts.
Not that quote again.
Yeah.
Really?
I think
it's a good quote.
Yeah. It's so true.
And I think it is apropos as well. Okay, how quickly can we talk about our guest here, Tiger. Coming up after the break.
Author Linda Beeman is going to be joining us to talk about her book that she wrote, A Whidbey Botanical.
And why is this book a little different than maybe other books?
Well, it's a really interesting poetry book that has to do with plants, and I just like her connection that she's made with poetry and the plants themselves. So
The
we'll
whole
talk a little
roses
bit
are
about
red
that.
thing? Are we going to get into that? Or
There are no rose.
We're gonna expand.
There is not a rose poem in this book.
Okay.
You know-
Hey, go ahead,
oh.
John, quickly.
Well, quickly, at a tattoo parlor, they had one of those signs outside where you can.
You got another tattoo this week. Go ahead.
No, where you can put sayings up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on Valentine's Day, they had roses are red, violets are blue, blah 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 tattoo.
All right. It is break time for Biz Talk Radio Facebook Live. We're going to get a hold of our guest and be right back after these messages. Welcome all those tuned in on Facebook, of course, and Biz Talk Radio. This is Garden America. Well, we are back from the break. That's obvious if you're watching us on Facebook Live or even listening to us on Biz Talk Radio. Garden America, thank you for joining us. Happy weekend. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. Our guest is ready to go. This is going to be fun, Tiger.
Oh, yeah, good time. And Linda Beeman is an award-winning poet living on Whidbey Island in the Puget Sound. Do you know where the Puget Sound is?
Puget Sound is up in Washington, I
Good
think.
job.
Right off, there's a bunch of islands up there.
Yeah.
You've got British Columbia, Washington. You've got orcas up there. It's a great place.
I mean, got to be magical, right? Mount
Absolutely.
Rainier, all that stuff. So anyway, she is joining us this morning from up there. Linda, good morning. Thanks for joining the program.
Good morning, Tiger. How are you?
Good. How's the weather up there right now?
Gray, and we're expecting a lot of rain over the weekend. You
Oh.
won't be surprised to hear.
Oh, yeah. How unusual for you guys to get rain, right?
Shocking.
Yeah.
So Linda, you wrote, this isn't your only book. You've wrote other poetry books, right? Wallace, Idaho, Collateral Damage. But this is your first book that you've geared towards plants. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. But last year was kind of an anxious year for me, so I was looking for something that I could focus on that would be really calming. And these plants just came up one by one. So I was trying to, as I say, just focus on each one and think about them a little bit more deeply.
Yeah. Now, these plants in the book, let me first off, A Whidbey Botanical is the name of the book. And, you've got a full list of them here in the front. Hellebores, snowdrops, crocus, snakehead lilies, wood violets. And these are plants that you actually see where you live, correct?
That's true. I live on 5 acres in a wooded area that was logged a long time ago, so it has some sort of figure-8 open spaces where the logging roads would go up and down toward a creek that would harvest them out. Mm-hmm. So there's lots. I'm looking out my window now, and there's lots of green around me.
Yeah, and so when you were creating these poems about these specific plants, first off, before we get into the specific poems, where does your motivation for poetry come from? Because your other books, as I listed, Wallace, Idaho, that is an homage to your hometown. Collateral Damage was, for those that were scarred by the Afghan war. And, this one is kind of plants. Like, where does this motivation come from to write these groups or series of poems?
So that's an interesting question. I think poetry is just sort of the way I process experience. We all spend times in our own minds reflecting over what has happened to us. And
Hey, Linda, could you speak up just a little bit for us? Having a little bit of problem with the audio.
yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So I was just saying that poetry is just the way I process experience, I think. All of us reflect on what happens to us in our own lives, and if we don't want to keep holding it in, we have to do something with it. And for me, that's writing poems about it.
And is this something you went to school for, have always done, or is this something you found later in life?
It's not something I went to school for, although I started writing poems when I was in about the 6th grade.
Oh.
There were some really bad stuff there.
So you've just always had the interest in poetry then? It's not really something that you focused on as a career or like you say, went to school for?
No, definitely didn't focus on it as a career. And I also appreciate, most people think they don't understand poetry. And I empathize with them. There are a lot of poets who I find just incomprehensible. But I think my poems are fairly straightforward and simple, and I think they maybe connect with people more than some other poets might.
Yeah. Well, and I do agree with that comment because, the term that when you and I talked earlier this week, kind of talking about your book, is, the poems that you've created about these plants teach us such wonderful things about the plants, whether it's the attribute of the plant or where it grows or how it looks, the colors that, it creates, that it's almost like a textbook for plants, but actually interesting to read because, a textbook's going to say, oh, this is the name of the plant. This is the color of the flower. This is how many petals it has. But you've done that in a creative way that puts that information into a poem. I mean, the description of the book, I'll read it off at the back here, is A Whidbey Botanical carries you through the growing season of the Pacific Northwest via poetry, watercolors, and folklore description of the plants. It will draw you into a year of Salish sea woodlands, surprise you with healing properties and other elements of flora in your gardens and inspire your wonder. And, you kind of told me it was really interesting for you to find out information about these plants as well, right? Like part of this was not just you doing poetry, but you growing as a plants person.
Yes. I think, the watercolors, the paintings sort of give a more straightforward presentation about the various plants. But what I was looking for as I was thinking about them was folklore or unusual properties or something whimsical that would grab your attention, and that was really wonderful to research. There's so many odd things about virtually any plant that you might be familiar with. That I just found that a delight.
Yeah, and in your area, in your region, where there was a large a Native American population that's kind of been there for a long time. I mean, their use of medicinal plants, their use of plants for shelter or eating. There's so many fun things. How much more time do we have?
Got about a minute to go.
About a minute before our first break. There's one poem I'm going to read here. And it's about the red cedar here, Linda, and it's Western red cedars watch over us though cedar is a masquerade, they are really cypress in disguise. Thuya plicata seem like spirits giving their all in canoes, totems, shingles, baskets, flutes. Whipping branches in winter storms offer arboreal reassurance during high wind advisories, cyclone bombs. When beaver moon rotations signal colonies to gather twigs and moss for their lodges, when summer drought rusts inner cedar sprays that pace themselves to our windshields, they tower over us, sheltering, keeping those pesky alders in line. And then, you have this whole other, description of the Thuya plicata and a little bit more information. They can grow over 200 feet, live for 1,000 years. Like I say, it's a really interesting way to learn about these plants. And when we get back from the break, we're going to continue chatting with Linda Beeman about her book, A Whidbey Botanical.
Back after these messages, Garden America, Facebook Live, and Biz Talk Radio. Thank you to our major sponsor, Fertilome, back with Garden America, Fertilome, Facebook Live, and Biz Talk Radio. Thanks to Biz Talk Radio, tuned in on the nationally syndicated program here, Garden America. We're talking poetry today. We have a comment, and we're going to keep on cruising on with Linda.
John, do you have Carla's comment right in front of you?
I do, Linda. Carla in Huntington Beach says that she's always wanted to visit Whidbey Island, and she's only seen it from a distance, but it looks so charming. She said she can imagine that it does inspire poetry.
And it does. And I think one of the things that most people who live here feel, you have to take a 15-minute ferry ride from Everett, Washington, to get here on the south end anyway. And you can always feel driving onto the ferry, oh, thank God. It's just really a lovely coming home feeling.
Oh. And before the break, I had read your poem that you had written about the red cedars, and then you have an associated watercolor picture. I'm gonna hold it up to our camera here in studio, Linda, so people can
have a camera there.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So people can kind of see the book and how it's kind of laid out. Now, was this the first book you've published?
No.
No, but not the first book you published, but are the other ones available also?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
This one, as well as others on Amazon.com, obviously, or for people who like to buy from independent booksellers, they're available at Moonraker Books in Langley, Washington, and I can give you that information if you'd like.
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I'll get some information up and we'll share it onto our Facebook feed as well.
Perfect.
The watercolors, tell us a little bit about your background, because, poetry, watercolors, how did you get started in that as well?
Gosh, my background is pretty checkered.
Checkered background. Join the club.
Yeah.
It involves a lot of work for political figures, and as a small retail business owner, and as for years I was the founding editor of a newsletter for antique walking stick collectors. And I had an old textile gallery also in Seattle. I think I'm just curious about the world, actually. And again, as I say, poetry and painting helps you to see yourself better and helps you to see the exterior world better as well.
Well, Linda, I don't know if you know this, but in studio with us here, we also have an author. John has written a series of books. What was your first book, John?
It was a houseplant book back in the 70s.
No,
right?
what was it?
It was Plants for the Home, Volume 1.
Yeah. So did you?
Anticipated Volume 2, didn't you, John?
Yeah, she knows.
But did you put these houseplants into poems, John?
A lot of people just think that my writing is poetry itself.
Oh, is that what it is?
No, I did not. I used to write poetry, though, but I never published any of it, and I really admire our Linda's efforts at what she's done. And like you said, taking botanical terms and horticultural knowledge
and weaving that together
and weaving it
poetry.
into I had mentioned roses are red was about as far as I could get, but I really appreciate what she's done, and I've always admired people that could paint,
especially watercolor. That to me,
painting is watercolors. When I see them, I'm just amazed.
Because because for me, watercolors, they just come out a big blob.
Exactly,
if you can actually make out the plant or what you're painting with watercolors, it's really impressive, Linda, because I definitely could do nothing of this sort. It just looks like a mosaic thing.
One of our listeners, when we were up in Chico, gave Bruce and Sharon and myself a watercolor painting of amaryllis.
Oh,
And I have this hanging up in my house today, and I think Sharon has hers hanging up also.
Wow.
is it in your library?
No, it's in the living room.
Oh.
It hangs over the antique hutch that or secretary desk that my wife refinished.
Oh.
And it hangs over the top.
Beautiful. So Linda, when it came to, these plants in the book too, did it inspire you into do more gardening as well?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm actually working on a park.
Oh.
Yeah, I bought a vacant lot in a little city named Langley, near where I live here, and thinking I would build a house there eventually. And that's not going to be happening. So I decided what I would do in the meantime, anyway, was to make a little park for people in that neighborhood. And that's been a really interesting experience because it's a much sunnier and drier situation than I have here. And I have to cope with black-tailed deer and bunnies and all sorts of critters without being able to be there, on a permanent basis.
So are you trying to incorporate some of the native flowers and plants there into that park setting?
Not necessarily working with natives, but working with things that are drought resistant and deer resistant, and that can withstand a lot of bright light.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, Linda, but this just came out. I just saw it this week. Let's see if it has a date on this article. It doesn't have one right now, but there was a new plant discovery, which is kind of a big deal for us in the plant world because there's not a lot of new plants, and this might be a deer-resistant plant, even though I think part of the name has to do with deer. But it's in, where did I say it was, John? Oh, Big Bend.
In
Big
Texas.
Bend National Park in Texas. And it's the Ovicula barradiata. And it's a small fuzzy leaf. The scientists have also gave it the name woolly devil because it's got a fuzzy leaf. But you got a new plant to write a poem about then. Right there. You're finding new plants every day and you can describe it. But this one, because it has a fuzzy leaf, might be deer resistant as well. I don't know. A lot of plants that have that fuzzy texture are resistant to deer.
I didn't know
rabbits.
that. I know that usually it's smell that repels, I think, deer most effectively.
Yeah, isn't that funny that some of the best fragrance plants to us are the ones that the deer stay away from?
Right. Good for us, bad for them.
Yeah.
Tiger, Kevin in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, was wondering what some of the greatest influences in Linda's life were, or who some of the greatest influences in her life were.
I grew up very close to Coeur d'Alene. Wallace is just about 30 miles away, so I'm interested that he would be asking that question. And Wallace, which is most of you won't know, but is a really gritty little mining town, silver, lead, and zinc, and it's fallen on hard times like a lot of mining areas have. But I think it shaped me in an interesting way. It made me a little bit more of a risk taker, maybe, than I might have been otherwise. It was just kind of a challenging place to grow up, and it was actually a place I wanted to leave pretty early on as well.
Yeah. So maybe so Wallace definitely shaped who you are, huh?
I'm sorry.
So because Kevin was asking who kind of inspired, right?
You said Wallace, I guess.
But yeah, so the Wallace, the town you were from, kind of shaped who you are in a lot of ways.
It did.
Hey, Linda, we are going to take a quick break. When we get back from the break, we're going to wrap up chatting here with Linda Beeman, the author of The Whidbey Botanical.
Yes, indeed. A song comes to mind, an old song, John, you might remember, Poetry in Motion. And I believe that was Johnny Tillotson.
You know, there's a rose called Poetry in Motion.
Boy, look at this. We've expanded into other areas here. We are going to take a break, as Tiger mentioned. This is Garden America, breaking for Biz Talk Radio. Facebook Live, do stay with us. Back after these messages. Okay, we are back, obviously, and for those on Biz Talk Radio, this is the final segment of the first hour. Hour one, news coming up for you only, not Facebook Live, but news coming up top of the hour. Biz Talk Radio, back at 6 minutes after. Hopefully you can catch our second hour in your market here, Garden America, as we continue with plants and backgrounds, history, poetry, watercolors, you name it, Tiger.
Yeah, and joining us this morning, Linda Beeman, author, poet, avid gardener, park creator.
Yeah.
Just everything, huh? And so I posted the link for people to be able to get the book on Amazon, Linda, and find out a little bit more information. It also has the link to the other books that you've written. Any books in the works for the future?
Not right offhand. Usually it takes a while to kind of, finish something up, take a breath, and then something else will come along in life that spurs you on to something else. But so far, right now, no. Mostly what I'm involved right now is, as I say, working on that little vacant lot and talking to folks like you.
That's super fun that you're doing that.
Yeah, right.
That is something that I always find interesting and always find intriguing when people can work on a situation for opening it up to the public for other people to enjoy. There's that scene from Notting Hill, the movie Notting Hill, Julia Roberts, Hugh Grant, and they live in England where they have these little areas where these are parks embedded in to the neighborhood that have like these private gates, and I'm always like, that would be really interesting to me. It's kind of like the secret garden or something like that. So that's what I'm envisioning your park, but probably not like that. But that's what it is in my eyes, Linda.
And in the future, I envision a park bench there with Linda's name on it and a plaque to forever remember her and what she did.
Maybe a park bench.
Yeah.
And a deer eating the plants right next to it.
Exactly, yeah.
As a statue of her shooing them away. Oh, well, lots of fun stuff. Thanks for joining us
we
this
appreciate
morning,
it.
Linda. Good luck with the weather. So is this storm heading your way normal for you, or is this more rain
They're
than?
saying really heavy rain, so not so far, but we'll hope for the best.
Yeah, well,
Thank
hope for the best.
Thank you guys so much for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we appreciate
Absolutely.
you joining us. You take care, Linda. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah, well, that's, it was different, but a good different. And I know that our listeners and viewers got a kick out of that with, I guess the word quirky is kind of good, the watercolors and how she weaves together plants and creates poetry based upon facts about various plants. So
Yeah.
I found that I liked it. That was great.
The thing that she, I didn't mention, but she said was just, it was so fun learning to her. It was so fun learning about the history of the plants, little stories behind why the plants have their name,
Right.
or different things like that. And that is so true. And, a lot of plant books are a lot of fun to read because of that information. It's number one, it's a little bit of history. Number two, even a little bit of adventure that goes along with it. But then to put it in with poetry,
Well,
it's
I liked your
fascinating.
question about, okay, now that you've researched these plants and you got into it, are you going to grow plants? Are you going to get into that? And she was a little evasive, so I don't know, but it's interesting how she took this left turn in life into something that we don't know how much of a background she had before and created something like this.
Yeah.
And again, the watercolor thing, I think the last time I watercolored was in first grade. And I've always been enamored by people who can actually take a brush and just kind of dab here and there and create something. Because like you, to me, it looks like a mess.
Yeah.
I can sketch something kind of with a pencil.
I cannot do any of that.
I feel more in control with other ways of
You're
painting.
more of a finger painting guy.
Finger painting. In fact, I have a lot of finger paintings hanging up.
Dana puts a star on it and hangs it up on the refrigerator for
Good
you.
boy.
With the refrigerator magnet.
Good boy. You know what?
So I'm interested in John's poetry. Instead of a quote of the week, he needs to be starting to put his
why don't you
poem
test
of the
us?
week.
You know what?
We're tapping into a sensitive side of him.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it.
They were kind of dark poems.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
really? You're one of
Oh,
those?
man.
Yeah.
Edgar
My
Allan
life.
Bagnasco?
My Edgar Allan Bagnasco. Oh.
As a matter of fact, people would tell me, because I would share my poetry with my friends and stuff, and people would say, "Don't you ever write anything that's uplifting or happy?" So I wrote a poem once called Happy Poem.
And it was the darkest one of them all.
Well, it started out good. It was, I never wrote a happy poem. I think I will just to show them that I can.
That is wonderful.
That is John. That's great.
That is John. A lot of people don't know this, and I do poke fun at John writing, Houseplants Volume 1, but he does.
Well, he did take the pictures for Volume 2.
He does write like fiction. He does write stories. He does write more than just a textbook verbiage, story kind of a thing. So, there is a very creative side to him. People don't know that.
Try to keep it hidden.
He does.
I like how he responded with the poetry that he came back with, being accused of being this and then writing something to almost even exemplify that what you're doing is definitely dark, but with a tinge of humor.
Well, it used to be that I would only write poetry similar to what Linda does. It's kind of a release.
Mm-hmm.
And I really only wrote poetry to get rid of the teenage troubles that I was having.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. So, once I met my wife, got married, and
Moved
became
on.
a Christian, I wasn't unhappy anymore.
Your
so
story,
I never wrote poetry
your
after
story
that.
reflects thousands of people who do the same thing that needed an outlet based upon what's happening in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, whether it's writing a song or poetry, because you need something to inspire you. And that's probably why I never was able to write anything that was worth anything, because I had a happy life. I didn't have a reason.
You didn't have a troubled
I didn't-
upbringing.
I didn't
and,
have
like,
anything to inspire me or to cause me to go into a certain direction to be creative.
Yeah.
But that's very interesting. That it's like somebody who drinks. They're having a hard time in life. They're going to turn to alcohol or drugs.
Yeah.
And I guess that is what
To
inspires
null
them.
the pain, right?
Yeah, to dull the pain or whatever. Because I've tried to sit down and write things, and not recently, but I remember.
You write good captions.
Yeah, captions I can do.
Yeah.
I can do. Actually, I can write poetry. It's not dark. It's probably silly, but I will take a real life situation. I did something probably 5 or 6 years ago. If I find it, I'll play it for you. In 1 hour, I wrote, recorded, and produced a rap song with music
Whoa.
and everything.
Really?
And was it a serious one or was it a goofy one?
It reflected the times and what was going on in the news and the world at the time, and with the plight of what was happening in America.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of surprised myself because I played it for somebody and they went, "That's you?"
Yeah.
And I went, "Yeah."
Yeah.
But I was inspired. Getting back to what John said,
Yeah.
I think just sitting down and trying to force something doesn't usually work.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because there's a whole study, with that whole idea, the Renaissance, the Gilded Age, all this stuff were moments in history that creation, like this creative.
We got to take a break.
Oh,
Do we? Wait a
goodness
minute. Do we?
gracious.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Did we? Yeah,
Why
we
you
got to take
gotta
a break. I'm off kilter.
Get your clock right.
We get so involved, This is going to be interesting for them
Put
to
your
edit.
kilter back on.
Anyway, news coming up. Top of the hour, Biz Talk Radio, back on the other side here on Garden America. After getting off kilter with the format clock prior to the news break on Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live, we are back now. And I promise to stay on time. The network will have some editing to do, but that's okay. We are back, and we were getting inspired about poetry. And let me quickly say it and hold that thought.
Okay.
I remember in 4th grade, they taught us haiku poetry.
Oh, I wrote haiku. Yeah, I remember that.
And it doesn't have to rhyme, right?
No, it doesn't rhyme.
It doesn't rhyme.
It's the number of syllables in
And
each
it's
line.
so interesting that in the 6 years of elementary school, maybe 7 counting kindergarten, that certain things you remember the rest of your life. And for the life of me, I don't remember or don't even know why that made such an impact on me. And the teacher was Mr. Bott, B-O-T-T. Haiku poetry to 4th graders.
Hey. And you remember it today?
Yes.
That's amazing.
And I do remember, doesn't rhyme,
Mr.
it's
Bott.
syllables.
What's your favorite haiku? I know you like to keep that stuff private. You know, but
You know what?
what
I think my favorite haiku is haiku, to be honest.
do you just like saying the name?
I do.
Carla pointed out that I still do write poetry, which I really wasn't thinking of as serious poetry, but yeah, she said I put them in the newsletter, and I did. I wrote kind of a parody of The Night Before Christmas and put it in the newsletter.
Now, see, I can do things like that because you've already got the template.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, let's
You're
say
not creating from scratch.
you're not. Well, the same thing. Now, here's when it comes to music. If you're going to write poetry or write a song, the words are already there. The letters are there. You just grab what already exists. But coming up with an original melody.
Yeah, I always felt that the most important part of a song were the words.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have words, it's music. It's
Right.
not a song.
But you have words available to you that you put together to write that song.
Yeah.
But where does the melody come from? It comes from within.
Yeah, in that I can't even imagine melodies in my head, and I know you do.
Yeah.
Well, not really. I do recall a story that Paul McCartney talked about years ago with the song Yesterday, that he woke up and the melody was in his head. And it was so obvious to him that he went around saying, hey, have you heard this? Nope. Have you heard this? Has somebody already done this?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time that he was going through it, he called the song Scrambled Eggs because it was just kind of all over the place, but he had the melody. Once he realized it hadn't been done before, then he put the words to it. But the melody came first. But again,
And that's where Hey Jude came from.
Hey Jude was about John Lennon's son Julian and the divorce that John Lennon and Cynthia went through, and how he was sort of the child that was exposed to that. He was collateral damage, and so instead of Hey Julian, it was Hey Jude. Any other trivia you want to?
Yeah.
No, you're good on music trivia.
I can also tell you real quick, and then we'll move on. That you know the song "Let It Be," and Mother Mary comes to me. Well, most people think the Virgin Mary.
Right.
It was his mother.
Right.
And that was a dream also. He was going through a lot of tumultuous times in his life. And in the dream, she said, just calm down, let it be. So, again.
Something will happen.
Wherever, yes. Yes. You know what? That's good. Something will happen.
That's Brian's dad's quote.
No matter what the situation.
What did you say? Let it be?
Yeah, let it be.
What did his mom say? Mom, let it be.
Yeah, just said, hey, relax. Just let things go. Let it be.
Nah, then your dad comes along.
My dad would come along and say, something will happen.
happen. Yeah.
Well, that's a tangent, huh?
Very creative tangent.
But now how can we weave gardening around that, John? This is where John comes in. He's very good about this.
Well, you know, people who grow plants.
I know what you were going to say. Beatles, Apple Records. I get it. That was good.
No, actually, that wasn't even anywhere near my brain.
But mine. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I can see how you would say that.
There were.
I was going to just quickly mention that being creative takes other forms than writing or poetry or painting. Gardening, to me, is another form of expressing yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Creating
For
something.
sure.
Well, sure, because you're demonstrating your creativity when you go to somebody's garden.
Yeah.
You know, right? I would go to Tiger, or you would, or like when Bruce was an architectural designer, and say, this is what I want. So what I would do, much like somebody who comes to me and wants a commercial, I go, I get it. Let me come up with something. So I go to Tiger, or you go to Tiger. This is what I'm thinking. And then allow him to have the creativity to draw it up or create it. And then you've displayed it, and then you show people. And somebody else might say, well, I wouldn't have done that. Well, no, but I did it. This was my creativity.
Right.
Or what did you get the inspiration from? Like a Japanese garden, right? Like
Yeah.
That's completely different.
Yeah. Go along with your comment about Paul McCartney having this music in his head, right?
I know Veronica.
Yeah. She said that Handel's Messiah came to him as music first.
Yeah. They were very, if you think about everything they did, they were in their 20s. Now, I don't know what you were doing in your 20s, but the inspiration. As a matter of fact, here we go again because you've got me off on a tangent. You know, when I'm 64, when I get old, he wrote that when he was 16 years old. Who thinks about that at 16? If you know the song, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But just amazing. I guess you're born with it.
You know what comes to my mind when I hear that song when I'm 64?
Like that was a while back.
It's like, well, that was 11 years ago.
Young guy.
Yeah. Anyway. Will you still need me?
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, one of our listeners posted a neat fact, and I just found this interesting because anybody that knows this tool, I figured it came from someone's name. I just didn't know this story. But Pulaski's Tunnel is in Wallace. Is that Idaho? Is that where they were saying?
Right.
Wallace, Idaho,
Which is
right?
not too far from Coeur d'Alene, right?
Right.
30
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah.
From the Big Burn Fire from the 1910, they named the firefighting tool Pulaski after him. And for those of you that don't know what a Pulaski is, it is a axe with a flat pick on the back of it. So firefighters use that
To help put
for woodland fires, and also
Right. Okay.
in firefighting they'll keep it on the fire truck for even home fires. But I've always known that was the name of the tool, and I figured it was someone's name, but I never knew the story behind it. Interesting.
See, I would have thought that it was like a corruption of the name Pole Axe.
Oh yeah, there you
Give
go.
me that
Pulaski.
Pulaski.
Okay. See, everyone's mind works a little differently.
Yeah.
Linda in Reading says that letting it be requires patience,
Yes.
like waiting until the soil warms up enough to plant
Oh,
seeds.
that patience for sure, right?
Yeah.
I've never had. I'm better now, but my whole life I've had to work on patience
Oh, me too.
because I wanted it 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So
I-
my wife does. She's a nurse practitioner.
I told you when I was a kid, and I remember this. If I wanted something, my parents would say, "Okay, well, we'll see,"
Yeah.
and I'd wait about 10 minutes and go, "When are we going to see?" They went, "What? No, you said we'd see. When are we going to see?" Very literal. You said we'd see.
I say that to Isaac all the time. I think he's getting to know
We'll see.
that means I'm blowing him off now.
How about this? Here's another one you can say to him. Well, someday.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then he'll say, "When's someday going to happen?"
Yeah.
My oldest son was always very literal also, and I remember telling him we were going to, tomorrow. He kept wanting to go somewhere, I forget where it was, and I said, "Okay, we'll go tomorrow." And then the next day came, and he said, "Okay, we're going to go to the beach or whatever it was," and I go, "No," I said, "We've got some stuff that came up. We'll go tomorrow." And he goes, "Today is tomorrow."
You know what? That's very good. That's good. That's very good. Hey, do we have something from Kevin we need to read here?
Yeah, he says we have aspens growing in our backyard. They
Beautiful.
are trouble, and more trouble to clean up and then pull the new baby sprouts growing everywhere. But we love them very much and wouldn't remove them. Is there a poem about aspens? Now, I feel aspens grow in groups, right, John?
Largest plant in the world.
Is an
Remember?
aspen.
Did we talk about
We talked
that?
about this.
You know where
right?
some of the most beautiful aspens are? In northern Arizona. We used to go up and sit and walk amongst the aspens up in
and they're
Flagstaff.
protected there.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
they're finding some of the population of them is diminishing, and
Right.
and it's because they're not individual trees; they're all connected.
Right.
And so when you have a grove, that's all one plant, and as John mentioned, that's considered the largest plant in the world. It's a forest, like it's not a plant,
That's
right?
exactly-
Like,
that's
Do
exactly
you remember
right.
where it's at? I can't remember.
I think it's in Utah.
Yeah.
We got to take a break real quick here. Northern Arizona, Utah, aspens. Quick break here, Biz Talk Radio, Garden America. Happy weekend to you. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. It's Garden America. We're back from the break. We're talking aspens.
Well,
I want to talk aspens with you.
But
That's an inside scoop. Joe.
Kevin's comment about aspens, I think he said, they're just messy and they're not fun to deal with. And we're here where aspens will not grow.
Right.
And we only dream
Right.
of having an aspen tree. Just the wind blowing through them. What did you say?
How about the color? How about the color
Trem-
too, John? Right?
Well, the quaking aspen is a Populus tremuloides.
Yeah, and just everybody talks about, the leaves blowing, through the wind and all that. And then here's Kevin, who's like, I want them out of my yard. They're a pain in my rear.
Yeah.
And it's funny because
No, he didn't say that.
No, but
he said they love them and they wouldn't remove them.
No, but he's talking about high maintenance, right?
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah.
But I mean,
a lot of people are high maintenance. You don't get rid of them.
It all depends on where you live because, we talk about this where, people, that are in tropical regions, they got a plumeria and they got to hack it back, and pothos growing up their trees and taking over everything. And we're amazed by it, that it can grow there and do wonderful things. So it's just funny that depending on where you live, the plant is a pest or not.
And it's not unique to you because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what? Since you mentioned plumeria, I'm hoping my plumeria leaf out this year.
Do you think they will?
Yeah.
Like, you think they just took a year off?
Well, it was a traumatic year for them.
Yeah.
Most of them died.
Yeah, exactly.
But
But
those were.
you're saying the
cr-
ones that survived. I thought
Right.
you were thinking like these other ones were going to miraculously come back.
No. If you have a dead plumeria, it's rotted, right?
Yeah,
It just falls over. There's no chance it'll come back. But I have a couple that I think are still alive and will come back.
I have a whole group that I need to plant in the ground. I've run out of
A whole
potted
group,
space.
huh?
Yeah.
When is the plumeria show? The cuttings.
The cuttings one? Oh, good question. Because we went to the plant.
The plant
And
one.
that was
yeah.
in October.
Was it?
Wasn't it? Yeah, it was October we went, right? In Balboa Park.
Was it October or was it before this? Like September.
It could have been
Yeah,
September,
that's
October.
what I was thinking.
You think
More
September?
September,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, October's getting kind of late, but
Yeah.
it could have been.
But the cutting one would be
I'm thinking
March
that's.
or April. I feel like I remember seeing the date.
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah. But yeah, so plants, depending on where you're at, and it's funny because there's a lot of ground cover plants, like plants that, people use for like lawn substitutes or covering hillsides. And, those can be very invasive in certain areas. So the wrong plant in the wrong place could be very invasive. And so that's always a funny plant to me, that when people are looking for, they have difference of opinions and options, because they can get very, tangled in your plants. They can choke everything else out, depending on where they are native to and where they grow quickly. What was the one? Kudzu
Vine.
And that's like the south and in the southeast, right? Isn't it just like taking over whole areas?
John, what did you have growing on your wall at your old house?
Cat's claw.
Cat's claw.
Cat's claw.
I hated that plant.
You said you wish you would rather have ivy than that,
Yeah,
given the choice.
and I don't like ivy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's just. Did you eventually get it out?
I moved.
You left it there for the buyers.
Yeah, that's the only way I could
And
handle
John
it.
was saying,
I just
"Oh, this
gotta
is so
move.
easy to take care of. You
John-
don't have to do a thing."
John goes back to visit that house. It's covered.
Where's the house? It's under the cat's claw.
You mentioned something that I think would make a good book,
Ooh.
and actually a good book for you to write,
Okay.
because it could be a lot of pictures.
Yes.
Photographs would be important, but wrong plant, wrong place.
Ooh, that would be a good book.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That would be a good book.
And especially with all the landscaping you do. I mean, you
man.
run into a lot of those pictures, right?
Yeah, I can totally see just like a house lifted up by a tree.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
There's got to be a photo
Sidewalk
of something
coming.
like that.
Sidewalk coming up.
Or some of the older homes with Hollywood
Wrong-
junipers in front
Oh,
of them.
yeah. Wrong plant, wrong place. I
Yeah.
love that. That's a fun one.
Do
There's-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? As a matter of fact,
Now-
you could start off just wherever you're going. Take some pictures with your phone. Just
Would you say
collect
the Kipsgate rose would fall into that category?
That's the wrong plant, but that's the right place.
It
Where
like
they
took
have
over
it.
a whole property.
Yeah, it covers an acre, right? Is that what it
Yeah.
was? It was a
Okay.
lot.
Oh man.
It was such an impressive sight.
I'm trying to think, and then, there were.
I have a rose, by the way, now that before I lose my train of thought, called Cooper's Burmese, and it was
Like
discovered
a Burmese python?
Discovered in Burma by Cooper.
Oh, creative.
And I had it in a container, and it rooted into the ground. And I think it's like a Kiffskate type rose, except this has got huge thorns on it.
Oh, wow.
You can't even walk by it, and it grabs you. And it's actually in the area where you're going to be
working?
putting in
Thank
the
you.
beds.
Wonderful. It sounds fun.
Speaking of growing into the ground, and you mentioned it earlier, the ficus that I used to have. So I've got a small ficus that used to belong to Dana that came over in the move.
Do you know which kind of ficus?
Years ago. Same kind of ficus. Benjamina. Okay. So it's in a small pot. It's growing as far as it's going to grow, doing as well as it's going to do in that pot. So I went and bought a pot for it. This is why I'm asking you for the soil next week. So I went and bought a pot about 2 weeks ago. And I went to move it, and it's like,
it's in there.
It's in the ground, but not established enough. So I ripped it up a little bit. I put a saucepan under it.
Yeah.
To keep it from happening again.
Good move.
But again, you don't even think about it. Grew right through the pot.
Yeah.
It looks okay, but it could do better in a bigger, better pot.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you don't even think about it.
Is that why you want Tiger to bring you good potting soil?
Yeah. Because I bought
He's trying to save a ficus Benjamin.
I'm going to transplant it.
That's what he's focusing on, good potting soil.
Right.
Meanwhile, John has rare, extinct, one-of-a-kind roses, and he doesn't even waste his ocean forest. And Brian's over here wanting it for a ficus Benjamin.
I'll use it for everything. I love the soil. I love the soil.
It's not a matter of loving the soil. That's like a very, I could find those plants out of the back of a dumpster right now.
Yeah. But I'm going to use it not just for that. I'm going to use the bag for other things.
And I have a phobia about misusing the word literally. But a lot of Brian's plants literally came out of a dumpster.
Right. Exactly.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
You're lucky you don't live near a mass merchant somewhere where they sell plants.
I'm going to show
you. Would drive by it and you'd just see their
I'll
trash
take a picture of
cans
my sidewalk now because we came across a picture of our patio probably
Put it in the newsletter.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
You couldn't move in my patio. I don't know how I watered everything. And I moved everything out in the sidewalk. Now I've got this walkway that leads up with all these plants on both sides. We're going to take a break. We've got 2 more segments to go. And we'll get back to that mass merchant thing, Tiger. Great idea living next to that. Garden America back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. Okay, we are back from the break. Thank you to those on Biz Talk Radio. Appreciate you tuning in each and every week. You can go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show. Saturday mornings, 8 o'clock on the West Coast, 11 o'clock Eastern Time Zone. You can comment, take part in the show. It's live, it's active, it's spontaneous. That's what it is, John.
Tiger's got 2 books sold.
Yep.
Linda in Redding and Veronica in Spring Valley will both buy one.
All right. I'll get to work.
And Tiger
wrong plant, wrong place.
Brian's offered to autograph them.
Yeah.
For
no reason.
You could do the preface.
I will.
You know what's funny?
Or as John likes the preface.
Is this could even make the book too. It was the oldest tree. Was it the oldest tree in the world that was along that highway out in the middle of nowhere in Australia or something? And then it was
the one in Africa that
somebody
ran into
that a drunk driver hit and killed it.
It was the loneliest tree in the world.
Is that what it was? The loneliest?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it existed. There were no trees for miles and miles and miles, and this was all by itself. And a military guy ran into it with his truck.
Yeah. So that would even make my book right there. Wrong plant, wrong place.
Yeah. John, how old when we were in Italy? Was it France, John, at the aqueducts, and those olive trees were 1,000 years old, right?
Yes.
Speaking of old trees, just amazing. There was a big, huge Roman aqueduct right above us.
You have that pictured in your mind, don't you? That scene.
I do because I have the pictures on my phone someplace.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I'd like to see those.
And then you go
I have it in my mind, but
yeah, I can find it. But you go up to the aqueduct and realizing it's like thousands of years old, or 1,200 years old, and the way it was built, and it's not crumbling, and it's like, we can't even build a stadium that lasts 40 years.
Right.
And you go to the Coliseum, and that's still standing.
Right. And how intricate it was, too. Like it's not just like basic. It's
and I
not
don't
basic.
think they didn't use mortar, did they? They didn't use anything in between. It was cut very precisely and held together.
Yeah.
Almost
That's
like
when
a
they
puzzle.
you're thinking of the arches.
Okay, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, they were all like V-shaped. They had to be cut perfectly in order to fit together. The Veronica says that she has the same situation with the ficus as you do, but she always sets it on a stepping stone.
There you go.
Oh,
So
Then
she
it
never
grows-
has to worry about it growing into the ground.
yeah.
Then it grows over the stepping stone. That one root comes over the stepping stone and then just into the ground right there.
Well, to be honest, this was just kind of a place to put it at one time. Just I'll put it here for the time being, and the time being became all
Right.
being. You know, I may move it once I transplant it.
Have you seen the photos of Maui? You know, the area, Maui, Hawaii, where
It
the
burned.
burned, and there was that giant banyan tree, and you know it burned. It was substantially damaged. And then if you've seen recent photos of it and the recovery of that tree, it's astonishing how resilient it is.
I'm astonished by those palm trees that burned off Montezuma a few months ago because I drive by there every couple of weeks.
He's astonished by Washingtonias that survived a canyon fire in San Diego.
They're fine. They're a little scorched. You know, they brush themselves off a little bit, but they're, you know, and those houses that are right above there. Oh, that had to be.
So scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, still kind of smells, but you guys doing okay? Yeah, they're fine. You see those every day. To you, it's like one more. Yeah, big deal.
Yeah, no, it's like your ficus tree. Hey, but you know what? This goes to show you exactly what we were talking about with Kevin's situation, where he loves his aspens, but they're kind of a pain to deal with. But meanwhile, we're over here in oohing and awing over aspen trees that you can grow and have.
Yeah. Well, they're beautiful too.
Yeah.
Tiger, Rick wants to know if we've heard anything about the bioengineered purple tomato from Norfolk Healthy Produce.
No.
First of all, I never heard of Norfolk Healthy Produce.
Nope.
But I'm wondering why you would have to bioengineer a
Tomato.
a purple tomato, because
They exist, don't they?
they do exist, and I used to hold the world patent or the world rights to sell it. The indigo rose, that was the one that we had the rights to. And it wasn't bioengineered, it was just crossbred. So I don't know.
Maybe you can give us some more information on that, Rick. More background, right?
Right, Tiger's going to look it up.
The purple tomato is an indeterminate large-fruited cherry tomato with highly vigorous vegetative growth and a strong main stem. Fruits form green, then turns purple in the skin, ready for harvest when fruit comes off the vine with a gentle twist.
Is that Norfolk Healthy Produce you're looking at?
Yep. Our purple tomato is bioengineered to produce antioxidants in the skin and flesh, making the entire fruit more nutritious. Purple tomatoes have delicious, earthy, savory flavor, and purple color elevates every dish.
You know, I'm wondering if the way they're using the term bioengineered, if that's just another term for crossbreeding.
Yeah.
You know, because it doesn't say GMO, which is genetically modified,
Right.
which I think of when you say the word bioengineered. So it sounds to me like it's a natural offtake of the purple rose tomato.
Yeah.
Which
it's exactly.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And the purple, you know, contains anthocyanins, so it's another antioxidant that did not exist in the tomatoes that we ate, even though they did exist in wild tomatoes. The wild species actually came from the Galapagos Islands, and we've talked about that on the show before. And that was bred with a modern tomato. So you got the anthocyanins into modern tomatoes,
And
along with the lycopene that's already there.
I hope all the best for this Norfolk Healthy Produce. And if they want to sponsor our show, please do it. But $20 for a package of purple tomato seeds, it's a bit much.
Wow.
How many tomatoes do you get out of that?
I mean, it's a seed pack.
You know, I know
think
that-
it did say here.
I know that Rick plants a lot of Brad Gates's tomatoes.
Yeah, the wild boar ones.
Yeah, and Brad has done a lot of work with using the purple rose in his breeding too. So some of his tomatoes have
a
the
lot of them.
anthocyanins.
Yeah,
in them.
and you know all those purple blend ones. You know, like Brad's Atomic Grape. You know, there's the whole like series of atomic ones, and have that. But the nice thing about that, and I don't know this purple tomato, they're not giving us a species or a
And that happens with produce a lot, right?
right. Yeah, they're just calling it the purple tomato, which, you know, if they had that actually as a varietal, they would have put that on the package. So this looks like what you know, John was saying, where it's just like one of the basic purple cherry tomatoes. But a big problem was they didn't taste very good in the beginning. And Brad's blending varieties actually created some that actually had some pretty good
Right.
flavor, right?
The purple rose is the one that got the reputation for not tasting good because it did taste good, but it had to fully ripen. And people weren't used to a purple tomato. When it turned purple, you thought it's ripe.
Right.
But there was an undertone of green to it. And until that undertone turned perfectly red, it didn't have a good flavor, even though it was still good for cooking. The person, Jim Myers, who developed the tomato at Oregon State University, used to say that when you go to pick it, wait until it's completely red. He said, then go out there thinking you'll pick it, and then wait a week, and then go pick it. So that's kind of important. Here's one I can answer.
Uh-oh.
Kevin says he heard that tomatoes should not be refrigerated because it changes their flavor and chemistry. What say you guys? Never freeze tomatoes.
Yeah, that's
Never-
what I heard too.
never.
Leave them out. Leave
Never
them on the
refrigerate tomatoes.
leave them
I
on the
should say.
counter, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because it does destroy the flavor.
Yeah. A lot of vegetables and fruit, you know, should not be refrigerated for that reason. And I think that there's, you know, and as far as preserving them, you know, I've also heard that the refrigerator doesn't do any better job
Right.
of keeping them, you know, that much longer. You know,
It does keep avocados longer.
well, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it'll slow it down a little bit, but you lose a
You're
lot
not going to
more.
get the effectiveness you think you're looking for.
And you lose a lot more than what you gain, meaning, you know, just use it regularly and use it when it's ripe, and you'll be much,
I don't think you're supposed to refrigerate avocados either, but if you're not going to use
them.
they'll ripen right away,
Yeah.
and then they're no good,
They're no good.
if you leave
We're
them
going to take a
outside.
break. One more segment coming up. It's our shorter segment, sort of the epilogue. John likes to refer to the final segment as the epilogue of the show. So we're going to take a break for Biz Talk Radio. Thank you to Fertilome, major sponsor here, keeping us on the air. Biz Talk Radio for your weekend. I'm Brian Main, John Begnasker, Tiger Palafox. One more break, back with the final segment after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. My. Those watching on Facebook Live, are you good lip readers? Could you read our lips? I hope not. No, all good here. And our final segment here on Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio, and Garden America. Having fun.
So you're not doing? Are you repotting anything else? You asked
Yeah, I
Tiger
think-
to bring in the soil for
Yeah,
that one.
okay, the ficus and topping off some of the pots. Who else need? Oh, the Griffith begonia needs soil. Griffin. I like to say Griffith, but it's the Griffin, like the Griffin, like what you see on buildings.
That's
right?
what it's called.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Do they grow Griffin begonias in Griffith Park?
Wow, you're deep. Did you say you had a Griffin begonia? We talked about it. I was telling you how it gets real spindly this time of the year. It's almost like a.
It's almost like going dormant because it loses
Yeah.
all its leaves. They look like plumeria sticks.
It looks
sticking up.
terrible. My plumeria right now and my begonia look, you know, the average person would think, too bad.
Yeah.
You're going to throw it away? No. They're supposed to look like that. Would you wake a sleeping bear?
No, I would not.
Those are the most famous sand dunes in the Michigan, area. Yeah.
Sleeping Bear Dunes.
You went there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you
I
were there,
did.
2 summers ago, right? Or last summer?
I
Last
can't
summer.
remember.
Last summer.
Did you run down the dunes?
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not, but I went there. But I did not run down the dunes.
The kids would have
I-
liked to take in a sleigh.
I
or-
worked
or
at
a sled.
dunes up in Pismo Beach, so I know a lot about dunes, and I knew not to run down dunes. They're much harder to get up than you think.
Were you familiar with the Dunes Hotel in Las Vegas that was
I was familiar with the
imploded
Dunes
years ago?
Hotel.
Part of the old Vegas.
There's gonna be old Vegas, and then there's gonna be middle-aged Vegas, and then there's gonna be new Vegas.
Even New Vegas.
I remember back to the dunes. The last time I was there, I was much older than the first time. So we ran to the bottom,
Oh, goodness.
and then getting up, like you said, was
It's the worst.
it was horrible. And this little 5 or 6 year old boy starts racing past me all the way to the top.
Yeah, just
It was
ball
so
of energy.
discouraging.
Ball
Have you
of
been out to the dunes on the way to Yuma?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia out there.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what desert. What is that called? Not.
Is that part of the Mojave?
No.
But you've got a lot of people, the dune buggies,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. The Colorado River is in that area.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to White Sands National Monument?
I've never been there.
No.
I think I told you that I was impressed when I went there because it was the only time in my life I've heard silence.
Oh.
Just total silence.
And silence of that magnitude is deafening, isn't it?
It's the sounds of silence.
Do you?
But you didn't hear anything because there were no trees for the wind to blow through.
Yeah. So it's just nothing.
So yeah, it was just nothing.
You know, it's funny is the time that I associate with the most silence is actually just because of the extremes on one side, and that's when I went parachuting, skydiving.
Oh, you've done that?
Yeah, I've done that. And when you're falling initially, it's so loud. And
Really?
it's so uncontrollable.
I never thought of that.
It's so loud.
The wind, right?
The wind.
And you've got a helmet on, but still.
Yeah, but no, it's so loud. And then the minute that chute opens, silence.
Were
Nothing.
you tethered to somebody or
yeah.
on your own?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many times did you do it?
I just done it once. Once is enough.
Would you do it again?
I would. I'm not opposed to doing it. I just don't have the need or desire to do it
Was
again.
it as thrilling as you thought it would
Oh
be?
yeah, even more.
Yeah.
You're falling
Okay.
towards the earth.
Okay, so
very
let me ask you a
fast.
question. Because when you see this on video or film,
Uh-huh.
TV, whatever, and you see people falling, it looks like they're standing still. Not standing still.
Yeah.
It looks like they're not moving very fast.
Yeah.
And you're at least what gravity says you can go no faster
200
than 120.
something,
Is it 120 miles an hour? As far as how fast you can
Yeah.
fall.
Terminal velocity or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Terminal velocity. So do you feel you're actually falling that fast, or do you feel more like you're floating?
You feel
Before the
Yeah.
chute opens.
You feel like you are floating, and you feel just the rush. But what makes you feel like you're falling fast is when you look at the ground and how quickly it comes towards you.
But you don't have the sense that you're
No,
falling.
you don't have the sense
necessarily.
that you're falling.
So it's
But doesn't it take your breath away when you first jump?
I think, yeah.
adrenaline.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it
it's
does.
not the fall that would kill you. It would be the sudden stop.
Yes.
Okay.
Goodness gracious.
We have a couple of minutes here to sort through the end of the show.
Yeah.
One of those things that I don't think I would ever need to do again, but it reminds me of what skydiving would be like when we were in Costa Rica.
Oh,
When we did the Tarzan
the
jump.
Tarzan swing.
It was
Yeah.
like, I got up there and then I didn't realize. Wait a second, I'm just jumping off this.
See, so I would zip line. Like, I want to go ziplining more.
Yes.
Than
Yeah.
skydiving.
Yes.
Because I feel I enjoyed that because you can see, you can control.
Right.
It's not that.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah.
The first time I ziplined was in Hawaii with Dana back in 2018, and we were high above the canopy of
Yeah.
the trees. And I remember getting up there, and they're like, "Okay, you ready?" I'm like, "Don't ask questions. Just open the gate and let me go. I don't want. Just let me go."
Yeah.
And so the first second or two, and then after that, you're like, "Oh, this is fine."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long to go. Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I do this all day.
Right. You wish it never stops.
Exactly. Now, in Costa Rica, which we didn't do, which we should have, you said there's like different levels, 4 or 5
going
different.
Through the canopy, going through the different areas. It gives you a whole nother perspective.
It does.
Because when you're down in the tree canopy looking up, it's magical. It's absolutely gorgeous. But then when you're above it looking down, it's another perspective. Yeah.
Tanya in San Jose says she used to fly hang gliders.
Ooh, that would be fun, too.
You know what? It's great kind of knowing the background of some of our listeners and viewers.
But she also comments that parachuting's falling.
Yeah, it's that. Exactly.
Not
All
for
right.
her.
We're going to wrap things up.
Yeah.
So thank you. Well, thank you to our guest, Linda.
I won't be here next week, but
John,
you
you're
guys
off
will.
John will be missed. We
we'll
will be there.
We'll
be here.
An interesting guest next week.
Yes, we do.
Don't tell anyone.
No, it's
Stay tuned for that.
suspenseful.
Make sure you get the newsletter. Make sure you stay safe the rest of the weekend. Have a great week. Whatever you do, just because John's not here, you're more than welcome to join us next week. And then after that, John will come back and explain why he was gone.
I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be at the LA Arboretum. If you want to join us, the Pacific Rose Society is having their annual auction.
So there you go. So until next time, have a safe one. This is Garden America. Take care. Brian Main, John Bagnasker, Tiger Palafox. Thank you for joining us. And I guess we can still get growing, can't we? Sure we can. Get growing, America. Take care.